I want to think in this way. If my understanding is correct, that data equals money, right? Is data inventory? Can we look at data? Is data inventory? Is data, as a company would have product in a warehouse, right? Now product becomes part of, science has made it to where product is part of our body, which has value, right? So who controls the data controls the resources. So as African Americans, there's something we have to do first before, in a sense, we think about companies. We have to control the data.
Can I make a point on that? Because
Sure.
and I want Dr. Church to also kind of respond to that, because some of the companies that you're talking about, they don't always necessarily control data. They may be developing new technologies, right? And there are some companies that are controlling data. But I'm telling you, a lot of these folks are using publicly available data. He actually sort of showed a slide where they have a public repository called AdGene that they're using to draw conclusions. Now, there's a larger question here as to whether or not that's actually the best science we could be doing. I think the whole point that we're making is you can make some conclusions from these publicly available data sets that are largely homogeneous, but are those really the correct conclusions? I want Dr. Church to respond, and then I'll have Dr. Rick Santee. Did you want to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of silos that actually inhibit the flow of data because they're trying to monetize it. And patient advocacy groups are outraged by some of the resistance to data flow. But on the other hand, the groups that just give away data don't necessarily survive. So, you know, there's a bit of Darwinian selection going on here. You know, I totally agree that we should question the motives of people that are asking for donations of your, you know, personal nature, and we should also question the people that are putting things in silos, and especially people who are doing both. They're taking your stuff for free and putting it in their silo for hire.
That's a problem. Would you want to respond to that, Salim? And then I'll ask that question.
It was the one point I just wanted to make is, from being in corporate America, you know, a lot of times it kind of the point that you guys were making at the beginning. If we're not at the table, then our needs are also not going to be voiced at the table. Our concerns are also not going to be understood. And I mean, I have example after example of times where I've had to fight just to have an African American in a TV commercial. You know what I mean? Or just to have, just to target a different audience. And a lot of times it's not because they didn't want to, it's because they didn't think about it. Because it wasn't something that was relevant to them. And when I brought it up, a lot of times it's like, well, let me roll out all the data that helps. I gave an example yesterday of an argument, just a basic argument I had with one of my vice presidents of, if I put an African American in this ad, he says, well, if that's gonna target the general market, then the ad's not gonna work. It's not gonna sell any product, so we can't do that. I was like, well, wait a minute, what about Allstate? What about this? And I just gave him brand after brand of, they only have an African American in it. It's targeting everybody, and their sales seem to be doing just fine. And again, it wasn't, he didn't have any malintent. It was just he just didn't understand. And he just had a completely different perspective. And so when we think about how we want to approach these companies, whether they're going to give us funding or whatever, they participate, etc., a lot of times our needs just are not, they're not top of mind in these companies, and as a result, it makes it a lot more difficult to go to a company and be able to say, hey, look, we want to do something that's specifically targeting that African American community. And they might look at it as goodwill instead of good business. And so I think the importance is helping them to understand fundamentally this is good business. This is either drawing a stronger affinity with your consumer base, which means you're going to have a stronger brand among this consumer, which is going to lead to money, or some of the other comments that you guys made yesterday. And so I just think that it's really important that we really think about the mindset of some of the people in the companies, that not that they're malicious, it's just that they just don't necessarily have our needs first and foremost.